Welcome back. Today, I'm hanging out with a new friend. If you've been listening to the podcast, we spent a month with some solo episodes, and today I'm so excited to get back into conversation with Dr. Deb Muth. She is a naturopathic doctor and priestess along our side here, but she's also the host of Let's Talk Wellness Now. And she's on a mission to teach women how they can use their feminine energy to build the life and business they desire. After using all her masculine energy to grow the Midwest's largest integrative medical clinic, Serenity Health Care Center, along with 6 other businesses, Dr. Deb realized that there was something missing out. So at age 50, she left behind some of that and started to tap into her feminine energy. After feeling lost and far from feminine, Dr. Deb sought out how to embrace that side of her. That's why she created the Phoenix Factor coaching program to restructure her life, where feminine energy always leads the way while still embracing health and wellness. This is going to be so good. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here, straight from my neck of the woods, Wisconsin today.
Hi, thank you, Hanna. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, so I can absolutely relate. And really a lot of the conversations we have on this show are that balance, that tension between masculine energy and feminine energy. And before we really dig into the how-tos and what that actually looks like, I'd love to hear your definition and how you conceptualize what masculine energy is and what feminine energy is for yourself.
Absolutely. So, there's those parts of us in every human. Women have testosterone, men have estrogen. We look at it from a hormonal standpoint, but we also have personal traits as well. So our masculine energy is that kind of competitive drive, go-getter, get it done, to-do list, conquer the world type side, right? And us type A personalities and many entrepreneurs have that side of us. Otherwise, nothing would ever get done. But then we also have our feminine side, which is our soft side. It's a little bit more of our creative side. It's our nurturing side. It's what kind of allows us that grace for when we fall in the world. On our masculine side, it allows us that grace to say, you know what, it's okay. Maybe there's a better way of doing things. It gives us that good balance between constantly running, driving, doing, to sitting back, looking, observing, watching, and then creating a different plan for ourselves. And so most of us who are entrepreneurs know you really have to have a little bit of both, but you kind of need that go-getter, get it done type side a little bit more. The problem for me was I've built 2 clinics, I've built multiple businesses. And so I was constantly doing, constantly going, constantly planning, always had that to-do list. And I started losing that creative side of me that could just sit back, create, look, learn, observe, see what we needed, see who needed help, give the compassion to my team that needed it. I really became more of that owner who was like, okay, you work for me, I pay you a salary, you do what I tell you to do. And if you don't like it, there's the door. And it's really not the best way to be a leader, but sometimes in the midst of things, you don't figure that out until it's too late. And so I had some of the experiences where I was learning that masculine driving energy for me really wasn't fulfilling me, but it also wasn't fulfilling my team. And it began to tear my team down. And it began to impact my personal life as well, because I'd go home and I'd be in that same mode and I'd be dictating to my family. And it wasn't until a couple of times my husband said, you know what, I'm not one of your employees, that I went, okay, I've got to try to balance this life a little bit. But then I realized if he was feeling that way, what did my employees actually feel like too?
The balance piece. I am similar in the go-getter, I'm a lot type A and a little woo-woo is what I like to say, because I agree that I had to have the drive and the leadership and the organization and the list and the hustle and the nose to the grindstone to start. And then things weren't going as smoothly in my business either, where, I wasn't feeling as inspired. I wasn't excited to get up and like do all these calls. That was like supposed to be the dream life, right? And then this balance piece, right? We're always talking about that. It's been a buzzword for a decade: balance, work-life balance, energetic balance. And I finally had a mentor help me conceptualize what that could actually mean for me. Because like you said, as an entrepreneur, you need some of it, all or nothing. Where do we land in this balance piece? And they talked about how our managing our energies is like a coffee cup. I have a mug here. So the masculine holds it all together. It's this structure. It's a thing that you can hold on to and it's always there. But the coffee or the liquid inside is the feminine that's like flowing and giving you energy and like inspiration. And like finding the way to have both of those is so important for entrepreneurs. Yet we have this tendency to like only bring the mug or like just have the coffee and like pour that out. So I'd love to hear how you found the balance, right? Because for me, I tend to do the all or nothing, right? So when I first learned about feminine, it was like, I'm just going to be on the beach. I'm going to just go back to yoga teaching. I'm just going to manifest clients, right? And like, I had to come back to center at some point. So after that aha moment of like, all right, too far on the masculine, what were some of the steps you took to find your balance?
Yeah. So I'm kind of like you. I tend to be more on the masculine, less on the woo-woo. But I love I'm totally attracted to the manifesting world and, pendulums and all of that amazing stuff that comes with it. And I realized when I was on my masculine side, I was no longer doing some of those feminine things that I used to do all the time. I used to meet with a group of women and we used to do shamanic practices, and I would do yoga with people, or I'd do meditation, or I'd do chakra clearing. And I did some of those healing things for myself, but I realized I had gotten away from all of them and I was no longer doing them for myself or with a group or with anybody. So I was just working 24/7. That's all I was doing. And so I made a point of saying, okay, I have to get back to some of these feminine energies that I do, that I love doing, that filled me up, that made me more balanced. And so I started reaching back and pulling out some of those things that I was doing on a regular basis. So morning and every night I would do a meditative practice, or I would do a chakra clearing, or I would do a shamanic ritual. But it wasn't enough. It just still was not enough for me. So I decided to fly to Spain for 10 days and immerse myself into a women's program. And it was all about understanding the masculine and feminine energy. And I spent 10 glorious days with about 40 other women. And we just did shamanic practices. We did training. We did healing. We laid in the sun. We talked to other women. We had no access to the outside world for 10 days, no phones, no internet, no computers, nothing. And from 10 at night until 11 in the morning, we had to be completely silent while we shared a room with 3 or 4 other girls. So we had complete silence. And it was the first time for me that I was away from my businesses in over 20 years. And it was the first time I didn't have a computer in probably 15 years. And that's what finally did it for me. It finally broke me because I realized while I was gone, nothing fell apart. Everybody picked up the pieces for me. They could do it without talking to me 24/7. They didn't have to call me for every little thing. So I learned, and my team learned at the same time. But I was also able to process a lot of personal things that had gone on for me in building my practices and my family life that I hadn't been able to let go of. Once I did that, and I realized like, okay, I can be both people in the same body, I came back with a completely different outlook. And that truly changed my life.
Wow. Yeah, that ultimate pause button. What a privilege to have that opportunity and to use it as that awakening, right? Not like an isolated instance, right? How many times do we go to retreats or conferences or whatever, and it's like, yeah, you rah rah, and then you're like all high on the hopium, that they
Yes.
tell you or you decide you're going to be, and then you go back to just like that same framework, right? So how did you land, you're in Spain, everything is different. Like, how did you, and I don't know how long ago this was, if this is like, we got to pull back your journals, it might not be a fond memory. But I'd love to know some of those like masculine tactics of how you actually integrate the feminine into a structure that already existed and you had already built.
It was amazing. So it wasn't that long ago. It was it fall before COVID? So it feels like forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago.
Basically a lifetime ago.
A lifetime ago.
Yeah, got
it. Exactly. It was a lot of going inward and reflecting on myself and just having that time to do that. Being able to shed some baggage that I was carrying around with me for a long time. Like, we did a lot of ritual practices on how to embrace feminine, how to embrace each different feminine type. Do you want to be the feminine bitch? Do you want to be the feminine slut? Do you want to be the feminine child? Do you want to be the sexy feminine? What do you want to be? And learning how to embrace qualities of all of them, because we are all of them, just not all the time. And that was huge for me, because it would have been very easy for me to just become that strong feminine, because that's not much different than the masculine, right? And that role would have felt super comfortable for me. And I didn't want to do that. So I came back and implemented things like, I'm going to dress more feminine now than I did before, because it was very comfortable to be more masculine dress. Well, okay, if I want to be feminine, I need to feel that way. I need to look that way. I need to put makeup on differently. I need to do my hair differently. I need to pay attention on how I speak to other people. Am I speaking from that masculine side, like boom, 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 let's get it done and get it over with, I don't have time for this? Or am I truly sitting back and really listening to what people have to say and truly being interested in what they have to say? So I started making some of those little things, and then it just kind of started to snowball from there. But it was very interesting when I came back. There were a couple of people that couldn't handle the new Deb, the one that was going to work from both sides, because I took a lot of energy for me to have another masculine person come in and me to sit back and reflect that feminine and not just engage with that masculine energy like I had always used to. And so it became very clear that certain people were no longer going to work in my life anymore. And they chose to move on. And since that's happened, it's been much easier, because now I'm attracting more feminine, strong feminine women. I'm not attracting those deep masculine women anymore. And it's been a very interesting journey to watch that play out.
Wow. Yeah, so much in there. When it comes to like success principles, I think when you're trying on a new role for yourself, there is that element of like acting as if and just showing up. When I was a yoga teacher, I still am, but when I started teaching like real people in a studio, I felt like I am just this newbie, like I am not a yoga teacher, I just do yoga, like I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna act. I'm gonna be an actress in this yoga class. I'm just gonna pretend like all the yoga teachers I've seen. And then it just started to become me, and I showed up that way every week after week. And I think that's really powerful when life really is about like trying on these different roles. And I've tried on being a soccer player, and like that didn't work for me. So like I let that one go. But the yoga teacher one like became something that did feel natural. So I think that's such a great takeaway for anyone who's wanting to lean into it more. Like, what's something that makes you feel the way you want to feel? Maybe it's just like doing your nails or your makeup, like you said, that let's see how that feels and what energy, because it's all about energy, right?
Absolutely. The energy is so powerful. And even for us to be okay with being vulnerable and stepping outside of our comfort zone, it's such a huge thing for us. Because like you said, you could have been the newbie yoga teacher asking all of the students in front of you if you're doing it right or do they get it. Or you could go in being confident and powerful in the new you. And nobody knows it's new for you unless you tell them.
Yeah.
You might have some close people next to you that notice, like, oh yeah, she's doing something different, but they still may not be able to figure it out unless you tell them, because the changes are so gradual that people don't notice it. So the only person that truly becomes uncomfortable with it is you. And the
Mm,
only way we become comfortable with something is if we embrace the uncomfortable. And in
mhm.
business, we embrace the uncomfortable all the time.
Yeah.
You try a new product, you try a new marketing ploy, you offer a new service, you raise your prices, whatever it is, it's uncomfortable, but you still do it. And so on our personal side, we need to be okay with being a little vulnerable and a little uncomfortable until we feel confident in it again.
Oh, again, so many good takeaways in both life and business. And it's actually a really beautiful segue. Our last episode on the show, I started to talk a little bit about a transition that's happening in the business. And it was extremely subtle because for a while I was trying it on behind the scenes, right? So I just mentioned to you, Dr. Deb, that we're moving from, doing the coaching, doing the like mentorship and moving more into some like marketing services for those coaches that we've gotten to know so well over the years. And I cringe, maybe because it's my own insecurity, whenever I see people like pivot, like totally different, new me, like Hanna 4.0, announcing this new thing, because to me, entrepreneurship, like we're always changing and evolving, like don't burn down your old store just to start a new one. Like that confuses people. And so what you're saying with this subtlety and how change happens, like decision by decision, how you show up in meeting, client interaction, price proposal, like those are the little things that add up to the culmination of who you are. And then people understand what your business is about or what's on your storefront. So I just love this, like making the choices to show up, even if you're acting as if, because you become who you are subtly. Would you agree with that,
Absolutely.
even in business, the like
Even in business,
announcement versus the being point?
yes, I think so too. Because I think, in business, we're always pivoting. We have to, you don't survive, right? You don't stay alive. And you have to be constantly changing with the times. It doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're just adding something new or twisting it a little bit. Or instead of a webinar, now you're having a master class because that's the new lingo we use, but we all know it's still a webinar. It's those little things that you do that are subtle. But I found in business too, the less of a big deal that you make about a change, unless it's a super huge thing that's going to really, bring you a ton of money or something, the less impact you make on it, the less people will notice. And they'll just assume you've always done it that way. And if you want to make a change that you're really worried about, don't make a big deal out of it. Like raise your prices. Don't make an announcement to your entire client list and send them a letter, because all they're going to do is call and complain that you raised your price. If you just raise the price, then when you have that individual conversation with them, it's a lot easier for them to swallow and they understand it.
Yeah.
But if you're offering this big service and it could be potentially a lot of money for you, and okay, now you make a big announcement about something like that, that makes a big difference for you. But you really have to pick and choose where you do that.
Absolutely. I made that exact mistake when I started my first business. I sent an email out to everyone I knew, like mom, dad, grandma, cousin, high school friends, like everyone needs to know this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay, that lasted like 4 months before I realized I could do it better. I'm going to change this. And then it's like, okay, you can't keep emailing that like announcement all the time. And then, so you just threw me back when you said that like big announcement piece, and not to just spam everyone with an email every time you have a new idea or you're going to do things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've built multiple businesses, right? You've learned these sort of things in many places, all in the health field. Have all your businesses been like health oriented over the years?
Yeah, but all of them have been health field driven. My latest project is a gluten-free flour line that we created for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity.
Wow.
But pretty much all of them have been in the health industry.
Yeah. So we have a lot of health coaches and practitioners that listen. And so I want to switch gears a little bit and hear what you're noticing. You know, we mentioned COVID. We're early July 2021 recording this. A lot of masks are flying off and things are changing, and we'll see kind of what this next era brings. And I'm curious on the business landscape in the health industry, what shifts or trends that you're noticing? You know, are we entering a new opportunity and when it comes to health entrepreneurship in your perspective?
Yeah, I really do think we are. A couple of years ago, the big thing pre-COVID was everybody needs to do everything virtually and telemedicine. And I think that appeals to a lot of people for the freedom of being able to be anywhere and practice their craft. COVID came and kind of forced everyone into that niche. And I, like everyone else, was thinking, oh my God, this is great. We've been trying to build our telemedicine thing, this help. And what we found is that there's this very specific group of people that don't like telemedicine. And we kind of were excluding them in this idea pre-COVID that why wouldn't everyone want to be doing something virtually? And I think it's opened a big idea and a big light for me, is that it's really more important to have a hybrid practice these days than a one or the other. Now, my practice has always had a telemedicine component, but not to the degree that it was COVID. And now I'd say we're probably half and half, but I think it's going to be really important for people to realize that not everyone feels like they have that connection virtually and they like being in person. But it also makes us realize that we have to work a lot harder when we are doing something virtual, that people feel connected, that they feel like they're in the room, like they still feel like they're connected like they would in person. That's been a big thing with COVID coming on.
Yeah, that's really huge. I was on the, again, all or nothing spectrum. We're getting into like Hannah's tendencies here today, but I was on the like, why wouldn't, like you said, why wouldn't everyone want to be virtual? The flexibility, the opportunity, the ease of like not having to find parking. Could be really great for us, right? And then getting that opportunity, and at first I was like, yeah, see everyone, I've been doing this for years and you can work like this too. And isn't it great? Oh, it's not that great, kind of, you know, I'm craving connection. I am craving being in the room with someone sometime, somewhere. So I think that is such a critical takeaway. And I hope, you know, health coaches listening and really any practitioner listening is starting to think about hybrid models. How can you connect with people IRL in real life? And maybe, you know, think about reaching people outside of your neck of the woods by continuing maybe some virtual offers. But I think that's really, really great advice as we enter this new era.
I think it's great. You know, even if you're primarily virtual, you know, you could always create a weekend retreat or a one-day event or something that brings your people in to connect with one another, because we really do crave connection. And if you want to bring that feminine energy needs connection with other beings, whether it's male or female. We need that connection. And it's just different. We're always doing it virtually than if you can be in person, and we need to be able to touch people. And that's huge for us.
Yeah. Way to bring it full circle with the energy again. And maybe I'm just a millennial, but I also have this pulse. Oh, you're cutting out a little bit, but I have this pulse on sales and marketing right now that people are hesitant to invest in information. So remember before the pandemic and even the beginning of the pandemic, it was like information overload of like, you can buy a course on anything, you can learn all these things. And really you were just getting like knowledge. You weren't getting like a tangible product or whatever. And so I think what I'm seeing in the industry and with clients we're working with is that those sales are becoming slower in this month, this moment as we're talking. However, people are investing in experiences, travel, they're getting back out. They want to have these retreats and opportunities to connect with people. So if you're listening and you want to think about what you can do in the second half of 2021, maybe putting together a local workshop or a destination retreat for some of your clients could be a really powerful element to a lot of the business owners that I know listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good.
I think people this last year and a half, they're really craving that connection. And it was information overload in the beginning, and people had time at home to consume. And so they were consuming at higher rates than they normally would, but now they want to play again. And so we have to pivot once again in business, and we have to create an environment for them to play with us and at the same time learn and have an experience. And that's where you're really going to make that deep connection with somebody to stay with you for the long haul, because you've created that deep connection with them.
Absolutely. Oh, so many good takeaways here for folks who are just starting the journey and thinking about balancing masculine and feminine, and then really looking to take, their business and their impact to the next level with thinking about reaching, not just in yourself, managing your energy, but reaching people with both energies and having opportunities for them to engage. Like, I just need this thing done, masculine, or I want an experience and connect, feminine. So speaking of connection, how can listeners continue this conversation with you and stay connected?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook at Phoenix Factor. Actually, we just changed it to the Vibrant Female, a little nicer name, and people can resonate with it more. So here's that change, right? So you can connect with me. You can also find me under Deb Muth on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. You can also catch me at our clinic website, which is serenityhealthcare.com. And from there, you can access all of the different businesses that we've created in the healthcare space.
Wow, so good. So many places. We'll make sure that we get links in the show notes. If you missed any of those links, you can just click below. So thank you so much, Dr. Deb. I so appreciate your energy and expertise here, all your energies, masculine and feminine. Glad we got to dig into that today. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life.